Alright. Let's go. Hi everyone, my name is Watchurstep. I am a sponsored streamer for Russian Fishing 4. Today, I'm going to start up a brand new account and go through the tutorial to help you get through it, as well as to introduce you to some of the beginning items that you can use and the beginning lakes and what you can do to help yourselves out when you get started. So we are going to say yes if we are ready for the tutorial, because that's what we're going to do. It tells us first to approach the bank. So W goes forward, S goes backwards, A goes left, D goes right, just like the normal games that you play. Darker hours, you can hit F for a flashlight. So now we've made it. We're here. What it asks us to do is hit I. Oh look, we have a pole in our tackle box. Going to go ahead and hit on the pole. It's going to tell us to basically equip everything that we can. You first have to equip a line, because without a line, it's going to make it very difficult. Float. We have this very nice bob float. Hi, Bob. And we got a hook. We got a couple hooks here. I'm going to go ahead and go with the 16. 16 to make it a little easier to catch your first fish. Baits, we're going to put on a worm. Worm is the universal bait. So we hit OK. This bait doesn't exist right now, so you're okay. There's no leaders yet. You're still okay. We don't have anything else. So at this point, I can say pick up. We now have the pole. So it wants me to adjust the float depth. In this case, the plus sign goes higher, minus sign goes lower. It tells us it wants it at 1 meter. So we're going to go ahead and put it at 1 meter exactly. And then, oh look, a yellowish green kind of thing area. We got a cast out to it. So what we want to do is we're going to hold down the left mouse button until it's enough that we can cast into the green area. Now we're close to it, close enough. Hit Z to zoom. So we zoom in, we're looking at the float. Now this is where a lot of people get frustrated starting off with the intro. The bobber goes down, I can't see it anymore, I'm going to go ahead and pull. Okay, we didn't get the fish. That's okay. We're going to try again. I didn't hit the right area, so we're going to keep trying until we get to the right area. There we go. I hit Z. I'm now looking at it. It didn't count it. There we go. Now the bobber, I can still see it. I don't want to pull it just yet. There we go. Once again, lost a fish. Try again. Alright, bobber's in. Zoom. Let's go ahead and pull. Now that we pulled at the right time, we got ourselves a Chinese sleeper, one of the fish that are here at the cottage pond. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and keep it. So we see it gives us the experience that we have, and it also gives us if we got skill points up in the type of fishing we're doing. In this case, it's called float. You can either keep it or release it. I'm going to keep it. Word to the wise to all the low levels, you want to keep all the fish. I know you have that tendency, I want to level up, I want to get to the new lakes. It's harder to make silver than it is to make experience. So save your silver, save all your fish, you're going to be able to sell them. Now it says, prepare the move to the other body of water. We can hit backspace, puts away the pole, tells us to go to the Mosquito Lake. I'm going to tell you, do not go to the Mosquito Lake yet. You have this very nice house right back here. If you come up to this house, you see there's an option to open. We don't need to worry about open, we're a low level. We're instead going to hit Y, get spare tackle. There. Sorry, it was a little bit of lag. So what just happened now? If I do hit escape and instead I go to inventory, I now have a bamboo rod. So I could put on the free tackle they just gave us, and now I'm going to start off with 2 fishing poles. Alright, so now we got 2 fishing poles. We're going to listen to the tutorial. Let's go to the Mosquito Lake. We hit escape. I see where it says Cottage Pond. What I want to do is I want to click on Cottage Pond, and it's going to show us the different lakes we can get to. As a brand new player, the only lake you're going to be able to go to from here is Mosquito Lake. Let's go ahead and travel, and I'll be right back to tell you about Mosquito Lake. Yeah, Leo, I made a new account so I could do a tutorial. I want people to be able to enjoy the game if they can't get through a couple of the beginning areas. So I'm just using this one for tutorials. I'm still going to be playing my main account the most. All right, geared up for Mosquito. Woo! Welcome back, everyone. My name is Watchurstep, and I am here with a new tutorial about the first lake that we can venture to after the training tutorial. It's called Mosquito Lake. We're still in the tutorial, so it's asking us to go down to the fish market. Your fish market is right here. You can hover over it. It's going to say E. I don't even have to move. So I can hit E. You found the fish market. Find the bar with an image of the fish you caught on the pop-up list, and then click sell. So if I click on it, you can see sell, turns green. I can hit sell, boom. I just sold my first fish. Congratulations, you've earned your first money. Now close the fish market window. We have one more task for you. Find the tackle store and buy worms. For those that haven't played this before, the tackle store is actually up here. So if I go up here, we'll make it official, go to the store, I hit E. It says go directly to baits. Even if you're in the loading screen, you can click on baits and we'll go there. So go to worms and hit purchase. I just purchased worms. You now have the universal bait to help you in the beginning. Close the store window. You have fulfilled all the tasks, keep striving forward, start exploring the world of Russian fishing for yourself. Here's a little fun little controls. If you hit F1, it's going to give you a list of all the controls that you can use. Some of the ones on here, you have your cast as your left mouse click. If you shift and left mouse click, you're going to do a power cast. We don't really need that with float rods, so right now we're okay. Set hook, that's going to be for some different types of fishing. We're going to use the right mouse button for something else coming up. The plus or minus symbols, those are going to be for your float depth, so you can raise and lower your floats. Retrieve, that's to bring the fish back in after it's already on the hook. Accelerate the retrieve, so you can reel faster. Hold down shift while you're holding the left mouse button. Open and close the bail. That means if you have any form of either a spinning rod or a casting rod or even a float rod that has a reel, you can open the reel, let some slack out. That's the enter button, either way. Friction brake. This is how you determine how strong you want the brake to be that could prevent a fish from getting away. Bigger fish are going to require stronger brakes. We'll go into brakes as soon as we get one of those rods. Retrieval speed. That only works when you don't have a fish on. The game will automatically determine what your retrieval speed is going to be once a fish is on. Snag release, if you ever get snagged, spam the right click button. It'll get you unsnagged. Cut the line, if you ever get to that point that you might break your line, hold down X, it'll cut your line, you'll lose the line, you'll lose the bait, you'll lose the hook, but you won't lose your pole. Quick item select, if you hold down U, we'll show you this in a second. Hold down U, you can set it to a quick bar or do a quick select. First, second, and third slots, self-explanatory. Open your backpack, put it in your backpack. That's if you have something in your hand, you don't want it in your hands anymore, hit backspace, it'll put it away. If you want to put a rod down, so say you have multiple rods like we do, hit 0. You can set a rod down. I'll show you a quick tip for that as well. If you have a landing net, we won't be able to forward it right away, but once we do, we'll be able to show you what a landing net's all about. To quickly select a bait, when you have a pole in your hands, you can hold on the B button. To quick select food, while you have something, well, actually, you can do it at any time. Hold down the T button, as in Tom. Item in hand details. If you want to see what everything is that you're holding on your pole, hit V. It's going to show you all your details. Inventory, keep net. Those are going to be things you can also access from the hitting escape, as well as those individual quick keys. You got your chat. Your chat can be all sorts of things. We'll get into that here in a minute. Current competition. If you're participating in a competition against other players, you can see the details of it. F for flashlight. Z for zoom. Thank you, Russian Fishing 4, for making them correspond. Again, quick help is F1, escape is the control panel, screenshot is F12. Alright, so starting off here, we can see if I hit I, we got the 2 poles. I have a spinning lure. We're not going to be able to use it just yet. I have a backup hook. We have a couple sinker kits. Those are for our float rods. Baits I have are worms and bread. Then I have bread, some lemonade, and some 3 tanks. Now, the lemonade and the 3 tanks, if we look at it, these are going to help you both with your energy, your luck, and everything else. Also, we have some maps. Right now we have the map for the Cottage Pond, which is the first pond we were at. So if we're on Cottage Pond, I could hit M, and I can look at the map. If I hit escape now and try to hit M, I don't have a map for this backpack. Where you get your map is going to be at the administration office. So if I head over, anytime you see this table of records, this is also going to be the administration office. So I can hit enter. Now we got 48.23 silver. I got 3 silver for the map. I'm going to go ahead and buy that. I click on it. Boom. I have my map. Now if I hit M, I can see everywhere on the lake without even having to be there. As you can see, there's an arrow. It's going to point. The circle's going to be where you're at. The arrow's going to point where you're looking. It helps you try to determine where you're casting. Let's look at some of these other locations. We have a grocery store. A grocery store allows you to buy food, which is going to help with your energy recovery, as well as drinks. So you got your lemonade, your colas. Those are going to help again with your energy. Alcohol. Alcohol is going to help with not only energy, but it's going to help you with your comfort level. Let's explain a little more what these are. Down at the bottom, we have 4 icons. The first one is your energy. This is going to be how quickly you can end up catching a fish. Also, if you've purchased a shovel, how much energy you have left before you're not going to be able to shovel for bait anymore. The second one is your food intake. Now, a lot of people get a little scared about this one. They think that their food intake is going to jeopardize how they fish if it's very low. It's actually the opposite. Your food intake lets you know how much you can consume before you're full. So if your energy gets real low, you can see the bottom bar is kind of red. What that bottom bar is your comfort level. It's raining, it's a little bit cold, so we're not very comfortable right now. So we can use all this area of food to try to get comfortable again. We're not going to do that just yet because I want to show you some other things first. Now, as you can see, you can have the chat. What the chat does is, starting off, it's actually going to follow you. So you see I'm in the village. If I walk down here, or run using the shift key, I'm now at the pier. If I hit Q to go to the chat, it now tells me I'm at the pier. You can see what players are here, and you can see if there are any additional messages. What you can also do is you can select a chat. Now, I'm only in one chat, but if I hit the cog wheel for options, I can see all the chats that have already been created. I could join one of those chats, or I could create a channel on my own. So let's take a look at some of the other buildings we have here. So if I go over here, here's a very fun building, the boat station. Now, a lot of people's first reactions are, I want to drive the boat. Right now, you don't need it. Unless you're going to be spin fishing, the boat is practically useless on Mosquito Lake. Don't waste your silver, save it for other things. Next, a very important part of the game is every map, with the exception of Bear Lake, has a cafe. Now, when you catch fish, your first instinct is going to be to run over to the fish market and sell your fish. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Instead, if I hit E and I take a look at the cafe, it's going to tell me what cafe orders are available. If I catch these fish in these specific weights, I'm going to get at least 50% more silver than if I would sell them straight to the fish market. So while you're fishing, make sure you always check the cafe before you sell your fish. You're going to make more money that way. Mosquito has a couple other things here. One, which is on most maps, is the workshop. Now, the workshop is going to be used to repair gear. At the beginning, we don't need to worry about that. Plus, the poles can't be repaired at all. But you can also buy stuff. If we go to the store, we can see a couple things that we're going to be able to buy. The first thing we could buy is a shovel. A lot of people's like, well, that's 38 silver. I'm going to show you why we buy the shovel very first thing. it requires level 3. We're going to wait. Totally joking with you guys. So we have until level 3. We'll wait till we get level 3, and we're going to buy the shovel. The shovel allows you to dig up worms. You get free bait. And that shovel never degrades. You can use that all the way up into the highest level. It will never break. The nice thing about Mosquito Lake, it is a beginner lake. So knowing that, what we have here is known as a field kitchen. Once a day in the game is 24 hours in game is 1 hour in real life. So once every hour, you can come up to the field kitchen and hit E, and that's going to go ahead and fill up most of our food, if not all of it. So now we have just gotten free food, so we didn't even have to spend money. Very nice. So we have a little bit of money. Again, first instinct is always to come to the tackle shop and buy a whole bunch of stuff. Let's be honest, you don't need that much. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look. If I hit on rods, because you can't fish without a rod, we can see the different types of rods that are available. Telescopic rods are your beginning float rods, so we can use these right now. If I go down, we have Bolognese rods. These are rods that you unlock through the float skill. We're not going to be able to use these, and they're too expensive, thank God. Spinning rods, once again, we have to unlock them. If we don't have the spinning reel unlocked, we can't use a spinning rod. We're going to waste our money. So let's keep going. Casting rods, that is a better spinning rod. We're not going to be able to use those for a long time. Feeder rods, again, we need a spinning reel. We don't have that skill unlocked. There's no reason for us to buy this pole. Picker rods, same thing. It's way too expensive anyways. Anyone who buys a picker rod this early, or even I would say by level 10, is crazy. Match rods, again, don't need them. Jerking rods don't need them. Carp rods don't need them. All we can buy right now is a telestick. I like the idea of having the most poles in the water at one time. So if I look here, I could go ahead and buy another telestick. It's not that important which one you want. It's personal preference at the beginning levels. I'm going to take the cheapest one possible because there's not really a reason not to. Now that we just bought the pole, we could take a look. This pole has a weight of 4.5 kilograms, so that means I could put a line on it as 4.5 kilograms. I need a line to fish. So I'm going to click on lines. We don't need anything expensive. It's just a float rod. We could look at this. Oh look, I got a 3.9 right here. I could buy that. I now have line for my pole. Still missing a couple of things. We need a float. We're float fishing. Makes sense we need a float. It's your choice on which one you want. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one because it has a different top to it. Allows me to judge between the two different types of poles I have. Alright, we actually already have a hook in our inventory, so we don't need to buy another one, which is really nice. We already have some baits. We don't need the sinkers. The sinkers automatically come with the float. So now I have everything that I need right now, and I still have 21 silver left, which is going to help us get the shovel later on. Alright, so now we've talked about all the different buildings inside Mosquito Lake. Now let's talk about what everybody wants to know. Your skills! I know you want to learn the fish. We're going to get there in a second. So if we're looking at our menu, we have a few different things here. If you get messages, there'll be a little message that shows up right there in the top left corner. We also got our inventory. We've already taken a look at that. Your keep net. Once we get some fish, I'll show you the keep net and some of the features of it, which are not that many. Skills. Skills are very important. This tells you where you're at with all the different levels. So right now I can see that I don't have anything going on any category except for float fishing. That's your first one. That's the only thing you're going to start leveling right now. If I click on it, it tells me I can fish with a telescopic rod, I can fish with a fixed line, and I lied, I could fish with a spinning lure or a spinning reel. I apologize, guys. But that's okay, because right now we're going to focus on float fishing. And I'm going to edit this video later. What's up, Stephanie? How you doing? Sorry, I'm a little late, guys. I'm trying to get through the tutorial. I'm going to edit this part out, so I will stop and say hi to you guys when I can. Kind of on a roll. Totally messed that up, but we're going to go with it. If anything, I'll probably cut out my sound and record over it later on. Oh, I know exactly. Watch this, guys. I know exactly how we're going to turn this around. So now that we can see that I indeed could have bought a spin rod or a bottom fishing rod, what we could also do is we could take a look to see if we could return anything and get our money back. Now, knowing the prices are going to be important because it's pointless if I return anything and I can't afford something new. So if I click on the rods, if I want to spin fish, I could buy a spin fishing pole right now. I would also need to get a reel. A reel is 9.5. I'd be able to get those two put together. We actually already have a line and we already have a lure. Now, I'm not a very big fan of spin fishing, but if you want, at the beginning of the game, you can indeed retrieve a spinning pole. Now, what I'm a fan of is bottom fishing. These are known as feeder rods, but the cheapest feeder rod is 37. Knowing that the reel is already 9, we're not going to be able to afford the full setup for a feeder rod. So I'm going to stick with the 3 floats for now because I still like the 3 poles being in the water. But if I wanted to, I could hit Y and I could sell this gear that I just bought. So if we go ahead and sell, you get full price back of whatever you bought. In order to be able to sell it back to the store, you have to have had the gear for less than an hour and you can never use it. We never used it. We went ahead and we returned it. Now if I go back in, I have the same amount of money. I can go back in and try to determine what I want to buy. So once again, if you don't click on rods, it's going to give you everything. Luckily, it sorts by cheapest price first. So if you wanted to do a spinning rod, here's your opening spinning rod. 4.5 kilograms. We could purchase this if we want to. You know what? We'll go ahead and buy it. So we'll have 2 float rods and a spinning rod. Next step is that we need a reel. So if I look at the reels, 9.5, perfect. I can afford it. We now need a line. Now we're getting dangerously close to how much money we have. Now this line right here, it has 120 meters of line, so we know we're okay on that. It's a 4.5 setup. We can still use the 4 silver to get the super line. Now, with spinning rods, you have another option that you can use right away. So if I first go into my spinning rod, take a look at it. We got our reel. We got our fishing line. And I have a lure. I can now fish with this pole because it's fully set up, but I also have an option for a leader. A leader helps try to distract the fish in a way. Now, I know what's in this lake, and I know what lurks. The types of fish you're going to be spinning for, you're going to catch perch mostly. You can catch a random eyed or chub, very rare. But you can also catch pike. If we look at leaders, there's a couple different kinds. You have a steel leader, a nylon leader, and a fluorocarbon leader. Fluorocarbon is going to be the best bet if you can use it because the fish have a tough time seeing it. Now we can tell we have to be level 8 to use it, so that's going to be out of the question. We can look at nylon. Nylon, we can go up to the 5K. We don't need that high of one. Plus, it's sold out. And then we have steel. Now, as I said, there are pike inside this lake. A pike has the potential to chew through your line. It will say rig cut by teeth. That means you had a pike on, you didn't have a steel leader, it just snapped it right off. Now, the cheapest, the leaders are fairly cheap, so I'm going to buy one of the 6K and one of the 2.1. Now, theory, you always want to have a smaller leader than what your line is starting off, because that means if the fish is too strong, it's going to snap your leader before it snaps your line. Now, we also have to worry about getting that pike. So, just for fun, because we're probably going to break a pole here on purpose, we're going to go ahead and put the 6 kilogram leader on. I didn't turn off my notifications, so I'm going to keep them going live. Dragons, thank you for the host. Welcome to the tutorial in Mosquito Lake. Alright, so now we have 3 fishing poles. We're full on food, basically. The weather's crappy, but we're going to deal with it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go fish. So what I'm going to start off doing is I'm going to head down to the pier. This is just the starting place. A lot of new people go here. It's not bad. You can fish here. If I bring out... Oh, I don't have any poles quick selected. This is what we were talking about earlier. If you hold down the U button, you can select your poles and place them into the different slots, so you can quick select. So, now I have the 3 poles set up. If I hit 1, it's going to automatically bring out that bamboo pole. Now, for Mosquito Lake, I recommend a normal depth for float fishing of 50 centimeters. So I got the 50 centimeter on. I'm going to throw that one out right there. Now, there's a few different things I can do here. If I hit 0, I could go ahead and place down my pole. My pole's going to sit there and I can watch it. If I hit 2, I can now bring out my second pole. Now, again, I like 50 centimeters for a mosquito, so we're going to drop it down to 50 centimeters. And we're going to go ahead and put on bread so that we can show you the 2 different types of fish that bite out here. Now, instead of hitting 0, if I wanted to pick up the spinning pole right away, I can hit 3. It's going to set down the pole, and it's going to automatically bring out the next pole. So this one, when it comes to casting, if you hold down the right-click button, you'll see the power goes up. If you hold down the left-click button, if you hold down the left-click button with Shift, you're going to do a power cast. If you hold down the left-click button for a long time, it's going to automatically include the power cast. So we've casted it out. This is a spin fishing setup, so we want to spin. We want the lure to continue to move. So what I'm going to do is I can hit R and adjust how quickly I want to reel this in. Right now, I'm going to reel it in at a 14. Fishing down these reeds right here is a good place to start off spins fishing. So I'm going to hit the left click and I'm just going to let it go. Now we are keeping an eye on our 2 floats. I can still see the feather. It's not going anywhere yet. Alright, so we're going to reel in nice and slow. The fish can hit at any time. They can technically hit as soon as the lure hits the water as well, so you got to be careful on how long you wait. Now, I just did what everyone will do starting off. I fished all the way in, I brought the lure in. You don't actually want to do that. So if I cast out again, what I could do is reel in. Yay, record for longest cast. How pathetic. As I reel in, what I could do is right before it comes all the way up to the dock, I can stop. Let the lure hang in the water, because sometimes the fish is actually following the lure and they didn't have time to actually make it all the way over there and bite it while you were reeling it in. So a good hint is to make sure that you take your time with it and just wait. And I didn't do that because I was distracted by the bobber. Alright, so I can see a fish is taking my bobber. What I could do, I could set down this pole while it's still out, and then I could click on the other one. So either hitting 0, or if I hit 2, it will set down the pole and it'll pick up the pole that's there. Now we hold down the left click button and let the fish come to us. We've caught ourselves a crucian carp. Our float skill went up 2. Again, keep all fish. Let's go ahead and keep it. We're cast out again. We're going to keep the bread over towards this right side. Bread is good for different types of carp. Most of the carp are going to lurk around reeds, lily pads, and moss. So anytime you see those, cast some bread around them, you're going to have a good chance at a crucian. Now I can see that my pole is not necessarily down, but the feather is down, so I think this is actually too heavy. Or we have a fish. We got a Chinese sleeper. We got 2 fish in a row. Keep the fish, cast it back out. Alright, so now I can hit 3 again. We're going to pick up the spinner rod and see what we can get. So I'm going to slow it down just a tad to a 12 and see if we can get something here. Now starting off spinning is going to be a little bit slow. Some people do like the troll, some don't. As you can see, I could see that the line was right next to me, so I let go of it. I'm just going to let it sit there a minute, nothing bit. Okay, I can finish reeling it in. We know we're not going to get a fish. Alright, so I'm going to put the pole away for a second. Let's see how this float's doing. Alright, we can see that it's bobbing. A lot of carp tend to do this. They're going to start bobbing. We're not actually going to be able to catch the fish until it completely goes under. Carp like to mess with the bait for a long period of time. But I see there's a fish on our bamboo pole. Let's go ahead and pick this up and see what we got. We got a 176 perch. Excellent. So now we got some more fish coming in. Go ahead and cast this back out. Perch like to sit in open water. So if you're fishing with worms, try to fish in more open water than right next to the reeds. You might be wondering why I keep zooming in and out. My main account has binoculars, which let's just zoom in 2 more times. I'm stuck on it. Alright, so nothing's happening there. We had the nibbles and then they went away. Both float rods are okay for now, so we'll go back to spin fishing. Now, the trade-off, since we're using a steel leader, we actually are going to catch less fish because the steel leader scares fish away. So, we're going to try to see if we can get one on a steel leader. If not, we'll switch over to the other leader and catch one that way. The nice thing about the spinning reel that I have is you could use that for both spin fishing and bottom fishing. So if I want to switch to bottom fishing later on, I can actually just purchase the feeder rod and we'll be good to go. So nothing that time. Let's take a look. That's doing good. That's doing good. Alright, we'll cast out again. One more try. If we don't get one this time, I'm going to speed it up quite a bit. If we don't get one this try, we'll switch over and try to get something on the other leader. Now, I do want to show you guys a couple of things that could potentially happen, such as snapping your lines, your rods, or having your lure cut, your line cut by pike. It does happen in the game. You can talk to anybody here. If you go to cast and you don't actually want to cast, it does happen every now and then. So I'm sitting there with the cast. You can't just cancel the cast. It's going to be there. What you can do is you can quickly hit right click and it's going to cut off the cast, and you just got to reel the rest of the slack in. Alright. Both of our bobbers are cool. So this is where I can hit V. V shows me what's on the pole. Now the steel leader's not really working, so we're going to switch over to the mono leader. And before I do that, I see I got a fish on. And he got away. Alright, so recasted. Let's see, how you doing over there? You looking okay? Cast out again. And we'll see if we can get anything on the non-steel leader. Now I wish the weather was a little better for doing this tutorial, but the weather's not always great. Try one more cast. If this doesn't get a fish, we'll go ahead and try to move. Now you do want to be careful and you do want to pay attention to your float rods, because if you get a fish on, they could potentially break your rod without you even holding on to it. So I see where my lure is. I'm going to just let go for a second. Let's sit down there, see if anything takes it. Nothing's taking it, so we know we're okay to finish reeling it in. Alright. So let's go ahead and bring in our poles, and we're going to go ahead and switch locations. Now, by switching locations on the map, we can potentially catch some different types of fish. If I look at the locations that we can switch to lake-wise, the only thing we can switch to is the cottage pond, which is the first lake. You can go back there and fish if you like, or we can stay here at Mosquito Lake. If I click on Winding Rivulet, it tells me that I can't access it until level 7, so we got some fishing to do for a little bit. So we're at level 1, but let's go ahead and try some things. Now, like I said before, you can check which location you're in by the little blue box that shows up at the bottom right. So if somebody says, well, I'm fishing in this location, you can do that. Also, there are coordinates. If you look down at your compass, which tells you what direction you're facing, it's going to tell you your coordinates on the map, so somebody can tell you exactly where you want to fish. Now, this spot right here, this is a campsite. The tent really doesn't do anything right now, but you do have this campfire. Some people think that the campfire helps you with your comfort level. It actually does not. The campfire is mainly used for crafting right now. If you hit Y on it, you can see that you could actually potentially craft some drinks. These drinks help with your comfort level. You can purchase the original ingredients at the grocery store. Coffee is kind of expensive. Tea is a little cheaper. Mulled wine is a little pricey as well. We're not going to worry about them starting out because we're not really going to be catching anything that's going to do that much damage to us. Alright, so I'm going to go over here. This is a nice area for perch. It's wide open, so we can fish right off the side here, 50 centimeters. I'm not touching the bottom just yet. I'm waiting for the message. Not getting the message. Let's try it again. There we go. Alright, so let's hit 2 and bring out our next float pole. Now, like I said, this is good for perch. So I actually want to change the bread, because the bread's going to take a little longer to catch a fish. So if I hold down B, I can see my worms. I can click on them. There we go. We now have some worms. So I cast them out. Now, if you don't like the placement of your float, you can either re-pick it up and then recast, or you can actually drag it a little bit where you want it to go. So now I have a little closer. It's going to be a little easier to figure out where they're at. Now, one of the things that's going to happen is if you have your rod too far out from where your bobber is, if you watch the bobber when I pick it up, it's going to automatically jerk. If there's a fish that's biting at it, it could potentially scare that fish away. So you want to make sure that you leave yourself enough room to pick up the pole. Now the bobber on pole 2 just left, so let's go ahead and see what we got. Ooh. Big fish. Okay, so we started the red line. We got a nice sized fish on, so I'm going to fight it for a little bit. And we're going to fight it. We're going to see if we can get this guy in. Line is torn. Fish was too big for us. We weren't able to handle that fish. I want to know what that fish was. So we finally did get to see that we tore some line. Now I can see I don't have any line left. So I'm not going to be able to use this pole unless I buy some new line. So to prevent any other accidents, I'm going to go ahead and bring in this other pole. Now what you saw at the bottom, which I could show you with the spinning rod, is you have this bar at the bottom of the screen. So if we look, you have a couple bars. You're going to be green inside these two bars. It's going to start to go yellow and orange inside the outside bars. That's still okay. As soon as you get outside the second bars, that's where you're going to turn red. When you turn red, that's going to make it more difficult to bring in the fish and potentially break your pole, line, or reel. That bar is telling you the weakest part of your setup is about to break. So you want to make sure that you keep it under those two bars. Like in that example that I just had, I didn't have a chance on that one. That was a big fish for this lake. So what we can go ahead and do, I'm going to bring this in, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go pick up a new line so that we can continue the fish. I'm surprised my chat's not going nuts for me breaking the line already. What's up, Huckett? What's up, Win? What's up, guys? There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and buy some more line for the pole. That pole was one of the stronger poles that we had, so we're not really going to be able to replace it that easily if it breaks. So we're glad that the line broke and not the pole itself. So we'll go back to lines. We could buy another 3.9. Now we're down to 5 silver. This is where it gets a little pricey to have that spinning rod because we haven't caught any fish with the spinning rod yet, and we've already broken a line. But we're going to make this work. Alright, so let's go ahead and throw our bamboo pole out. Alright, that's good. Now I went ahead and pulled out the other telescopic rod. If I go to cast, it's going to tell me the assembly is not chosen, so I have to hit V. I can't use a leader. Luckily we have a spare hook. We got a line, so we just put the line back on there. I got bait. We're going to go back to worms. I actually believe... Is the other line stronger? Yeah, the other line's stronger, so we're going to put on the stronger line that we just bought. Let me cast this out. Now you can see I actually already have my flashlight on. And I pulled my bobber in, my float in a little closer. If I'm too close to the water, as I try to set this down, it's going to give me this unable to complete. The other thing that could potentially happen, let's see if I can get this first try, is it tells me that the other rod's too close. I can't set the rods down on top of each other. I can move a little farther away and then set it down. Now I don't see my float for the first pull, so let's see where it's at. There we go. We got a nice roughie. Look at that, guys. Got ourselves a nice roughie, very first roughie of our long experience with roughies. So, got some nice experience for it. Let's cast it back out. Alright, now when it comes to spin fishing is very slow at night. So right now it's actually kind of pointless for me to spin fish because we're not going to have a good chance of catching anything. We're going to hold off on spin fishing. We're going to watch our float poles, see if we can get ourselves some fish. Now I told you I wanted to show you the catch net. If you hit C, you can see all the fish that you've caught before. The nice thing is, if you look at this, that roughy that we caught, it has a green banner. If we hover over it, it says this is a record fish and is highly or valued highly. That means that the roughy is actually worth more money than one of its smaller brothers or sisters. These fish over here are not going to be worth as much because they don't have the banner. There's 3 different types of banners you can get. A green banner means it's a good fish. If you get what's known as a trophy, it comes with a yellow banner. That's one of the top % fish that you can even catch in that category. If you get a blue banner, it's known as a rare. I do not have any rares on my main account yet. That's how rare they are. They are about a 1% fish in that category for each individual species. So those are the different types of banners you can get. And it looks like we might have another fish on. I grabbed the wrong pole. We didn't get anything on that one, but we're just going to keep continuing the fish because we have nothing else to do. We need the silver. Now you can see it down here at the bottom left. This green bar indicates how close we are to gaining a level. It also tells us right here underneath exactly how much it is. When you get the higher levels, it's going to be a little more difficult to see. That's where you can actually go into your menu. You can hit on your statistics. Statistics has a whole bunch of stuff to look at. So I can see in there I have 0 days in game. So this shows you I just created this account today. 228 experience points. It tells me I'm 72 away. We're getting close. I have not broken a rod yet. I have not broken a reel yet. I haven't completed any cafe orders, etc. Tells us the record number of fish that we've caught for the day. We've caught 4 fish so far today, and we've got 436 grams of fish. It'll tell us the strongest fish we caught. What's the best fish we've caught on a float tackle? Who was the strongest fish? The biggest amount of silver we're going to end up getting is for that Chinese sleeper that we already sold. We don't know what's going to be more expensive than that. I got a strange idea. I know exactly which one's going to be more expensive. So we'll take a look at that here in a minute. Sub-Zero, to answer your question, rares go for a lot of money. Always check the cafe first. You don't want to keep any fish. You don't get points for showing a fish. If you want to brag to your friends about a trophy you caught, not only can you see your best trophies, if you hit escape and go to statistics, we have a catch here. It's going to show us the biggest fish you've caught in each category. Not only that, you can hit F12 and get yourself a screenshot and show them that. Sell the fish, you need the silver. Great question, Sub-Zero, for my tutorial. So while we're waiting on a fish, there's a couple things that help determine how often we're going to get a fish. If we look at the top right, we have the weather report basically. Now the first thing you see is the time. Again, 24 hours in game is 1 hour in real life. So you can see this is actually hours and minutes in game. It goes pretty quick. Next to it is the temperature. When it's colder outside, it's a little harder to catch some types of fish. Some fish they like the cold a little better. It also tells us the weather icon. So it's cloudy right now, partially cloudy. We'll be able to see the moon here in a little bit. And then the wind is out of the northwest, which also shows us this little dot. So this is where the wind is coming from compared to where we're at. Whatever you're doing, you could actually potentially have the wind affect your casts, where your bait's going to land, where your lure's going to land. So be careful of that also if you're trolling. We will show you guys trolling here in a little bit. Alright, so we're not catching anything here. There could be 2 reasons. 1, it's a little bit cold. 2, we could just be very bad at the game. I'm going to guess it's a little cold. The next thing you could do is you can click on this icon down here. It's the same thing that the little icon up here told us, but this is going to give us a 7-day forecast. Again, 7 days in game, so 7 hours. This is potentially what the weather's going to be like. So it's going to be a little warm tomorrow, followed by some cool days. Or sorry, tomorrow it's going to be 16 degrees, and then it's going to be 15 degrees because today is already 2:53 in the morning. So it's going to be a little cooler. We're going to get better chances of catching fish on those days. Now, we're not catching anything over here, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and move. Because if you're not catching fish, it's no fun. So we'll retrieve our poles. But before we go look at fishing anywhere else, let's go ahead and take a look at the cafe orders and see if we have any fish that's matching a cafe order. So I can show you guys how to read these. Go up and hit E. Alright, we know we've caught a couple of these fish. We have caught a sleeper. It says we need 3 pieces. If I click on the sleeper, I see down here it says 1 of 3 pieces. Different ways that you can select. You have a select all here, which will select all the fish that you have available. This would deselect them all. If you hit shift on one fish and then a fish later down, it's going to select that fish and all the fish in between. You can also hold down control. It's going to let you pick and choose the different fish. So we don't have enough fish for this order. If we look around at all the orders, the roughy is going to be too big, so it doesn't even show up on the cafe order. The crucian carp, we have 1, but we need 5. And then there's no perch order. So what I could do is I can say, alright, well the roughy's too big and the perch isn't there, so let's go ahead and sell those fish at the fish market to show you how to do that, and so it makes a little more sense when I'm selecting multiple fish. So if I click the left button up top, it shows me all the fish that I could cash in. I can hit the button to the right, it's going to remove them. Now if I hit shift, and let's say I click on the roughy and then the sleeper, it's going to select all 3. Now if I click on the crucian carp, since the sleeper was the last one chosen, it's going to just select the ones in between that. Last one I selected was the crucian carp. I can now hit shift on the roughy, it's going to select them all. Now we don't want to sell the sleeper, so if I hold down shift, I can actually gray out the sleeper so we're not selling it. And then I can also do that for the crucian carp because we have active orders that we can potentially get. Down here it tells us how much silver we're getting. So for that roughy, we're actually getting 4.78 because that's a larger roughy compared to the other types or the other sizes of the roughy. The perch can get much bigger, but the roughies don't get that much bigger, so it's worth more money. We go ahead and sell that. Now we're up to 9.91, and we're going to get all these annoying achievements here for the most expensive fish, for the biggest fish, because we have a lot to do. We'll probably get one for the longest cast as well. Alright, some of the fun things you can do is you can explore a little bit. Look around the lakes. You can go in the different areas. If you go too far, it will cut you off. So I can't move any farther in this direction, but I can go this way. Look for the Easter eggs. I'm going to show you one of the gross Easter eggs that are on this map. You have a human skull underneath the bridge, which is right here on the map if you want to show your friends. Now you can run through the weeds, you don't necessarily have to stay on paths in the game. But again, if you go too far, it's sooner or later going to cut you off and tell you can't go any farther. And you cannot pass through trees. You have to actually dodge trees in this game. So I look over here, if I want to fish over here, I can see, well, there's lily pads, there's reeds, there's grass. I think over here is going to be better if I fish with bread. So I could go ahead and either hit V, go down to the base and select the bread, or what I could do, let's go ahead and cast this one out. I can also hit 2 and then hold down the B button, select the bread. We now have bread on. So say I'm out here in the middle of the lake. I've actually already eaten at that station. Oh, bait's gone, so let's go ahead and pull. Didn't get a fish. If you've already eaten for the day, you can't get the free food, and you can actually have food on you. I have food on me right now because it's a starter food. What I could do is I can hold down T for treats. I can see my food, my drinks, and my alcohol. If we get a big fish on, we want to drink the alcohol before the fish. That gives us a bonus to our experience. Right now, I can see I have 4 pieces of the bread left. I'm going to go ahead and eat the bread. If I click on it and let go, bread is eaten. We're good to go. I got to watch these floats a little closer. So I saw the second one bobbing, so we'll pick it up preemptively. Now we're far enough away it didn't automatically pull the line, and we're going to wait until the bobber disappears. Now, carp love to play with bait. Sometimes they take forever to actually take the bait. So all we can do is be patient, just wait for it to go. And sometimes they're really annoying trying to wait for them to take the bait. Now, what you're seeing on the left-hand side is you're seeing all the people that are catching fish around us. They tell us if they caught a nice fish. Now, some of the little fish that you can catch, it's not going to necessarily tell us the fish that were just caught. We're going to have to wait to see what we've caught. We won't be able to see what they caught if they were too small. They only put the good fish into the chat. All right, so our first poll has a fish. Let's go ahead and see what we got. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And finally, our second poll goes down, and we don't get anything. Carp are very tricky to catch. So if you're like a challenge, go for carp. Now what we can also do is I can go ahead and put worms on one pole, bread on the other. I'm going to throw this pole out towards the open water where the perch normally linger. So now we got one fishing for carp, one fishing for perch. I know what some of you are saying. What about the spinning rod? We're going to get to that in a second, because as soon as we get one more fish or the sun comes up a little more, we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to buy the boat and troll. All right, now my line's kind of tight over here, so I don't want to pick it up until the bobber actually disappears. So it's gone. I hit 2. I'm going to automatically pick up the pole and start to bring it in. There we go. We caught ourselves a nice crucian carp on a worm. They still bite on them, so we're okay. So I'm going to hit space. I'm going to keep it. There's one other thing I want to show you, so we're going to keep casting. And move over a little bit. I want to get into the deeper water. There we go. Perfect cast. This pole looks kind of stuck. Alright, so our float's gone on our second pole. Let's see if we got anything. Alright, we got a Chinese sleeper. We're just going to kind of hold on to this pole for a minute. I know some of you may have some questions about the skills. We're going to talk about the skills at a different time. We're going to save that for what I'm going to call episode 2. because I'm going to put out a series of these different types of tutorials just so that we could show you all the aspects of the game from somebody's eyes who's been here a little while and somewhat knows the game. So let's go ahead and pick up number 1 because that one has bit and it got away. Now, it can be very frustrating when you first start out, all these fish getting away. Know that you are starting out as a person who has never fished before. It's equivalent in the way that you're fishing that you're going to lose a lot of fish. Don't be frustrated. Take your time with it. It's going to go ahead and it's going to see its way through. Alright, see the float just returned back up, so we actually want to wait until it disappears again for the first drop before we pull it again. Now I was really close and that pulled it up a little bit. So it doesn't look like the fish is biting anymore. That's an unfortunate thing about having the line too close. So you may have to recast in that case. If you don't like the cast again, just pick it back up. Here we go. Now you can potentially hold on to the pole and look at the other one. You don't need them both at the same time. To answer chat's question, yes, I will be posting these on YouTube later on. I will get you guys my YouTube channel. Fish got away. Oh, maybe there was a fish on that other pole. Alright, so we got a fish on. It's a nice sized fish. We just got ourselves a 726 gram gibble. Gave us 124 experience points. Now this is what I was telling you earlier. It could be tempting. Oh, I can get 41 more points if I turn back in this fish right now. We actually don't want to do that. We need the silver more than we need the experience. We've already shown you how expensive some of these items are, so what I'm going to do is I'm still going to keep this fish. So now that we've taken a look at that, let's go ahead and pull these poles in. I've shown you spin fishing, I've shown you float fishing, let's show you trolling. Now I've told you before you don't want to buy the boat early on. As somebody who does not prefer to spin fish at all, trolling is my favorite method of spin fishing because I get to play in the boat. It could sometimes take a while to get things going on. And it could be a little frustrating. Again, you're a brand new fisher. You've never been a fisherman before or fisherwoman. Let's be honest, they are out there. And you got to learn how to fish starting off. Now my chat just brought up a very, very good point. Thank you, Extreme. Getting a shout out. Extreme Idiot is his name. He's one of my regulars. If you see him in there, don't listen to anything he's got to say. What he's mentioning is the fact that there are different types of baits in this game. Some baits that the other players may give you. One of them is known as potato cubes. If anybody gives you potato cubes at a low level, do not use them. They're used for big carp fishing. Those fish will break every piece of equipment you have if you throw them on. Don't use potatoes unless you're ready. And I'm talking about being able to bring in a 10 to 20 kilo fish on the beginning lakes. Be careful, don't use potatoes. Or night crawlers on winding. Alright, so the boat passes. We haven't looked at these yet. They are kind of cheap. So they do scale up. You can get more time for more money. I'm going to go ahead and do a 2-day boat rental because I don't expect that we're going to be spin fishing that long. So we can go down to the boat. You hit E, you get into the boat. Now you can see the icons on the left are going to tell us what we can do. If we hit E, we can get back out of the boat and start running around again. If I get back on the boat, same movement keys exist. If I hit S, I go backwards. If I hit W, I go forwards. Now I can't go left or right unless I'm moving. So if I hit left and right now, I can't really move because the boat's not moving. If I hit G, I'll stop the engine. If I hit G again, It'll start up the engine. Now if I try to stand up while the engine's on, it won't let me. So if I hit G, turn off the engine, I can now stand up. It's going to make it a little easier to bring in some fish. If I hit Y again, I can sit back down. I can start the engine. Now I can hit K to drop the anchor, but we're not going to anchor right now. Similar with walking, if I hold shift, I'll go faster. Now, in order to troll, what you want to do is you want to make sure you find the spot that you want to troll in. If we look at the map, we're going to be able to do a big loop around here and try to catch fish. So this is normally going to be your hot spot right down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play around in the lake, show you guys the boat, so that we can go ahead and get some things done. So you can go anywhere you want in the boat, of course, as long as there's water. If you go too far, it will stop you. You can potentially actually run the boat sideways up against a bank. You won't be able to do anything with it. It'll be stuck. If you run out of a ticket for the boat, if you're on the boat, it will warp you back to the dock. If you're not on the boat, you will not be able to get back in the boat, and the boat will be left where you left it. So potentially, if you're on an island on another map, you may not actually be able to get back in the boat. Alright, so if I hit, if I hit 1, I can fish with the float rod from the boat. It's still okay. I can even stand up, pull in my hand, and we can fish out here with a float rod. The one thing I can't do, I can't set down the pole. So I can only fish with one rod at a time. And yes, I do not have a landing net. Now, if I hit 3, I bring out my spinning rod. Let's go ahead and cast it behind us. I close my reel. Make sure you close your reel. You can make the mistake of not closing your reel. I can then hit 0, and it places the pole and the holders on the back of the boat. Those holders are only for spin fishing. Now I can hit Y again to sit back down. You have to be sitting in order to troll. And that's what J is. So I'm sitting down. Even with the engine off, if I hit J, it's going to automatically start the engine. Now if the anchor's down, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Engine started. Trolling mode J. Let's go. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick up the rod, because I like this holder better for the route that we're taking. So I can just look to the other side and it's going to place it in the other holder. You can have 2 poles in the holders at all times. You may see some of the higher advanced players actually using 3 poles at the same time. I'm here to tell you it is possible. You can certainly do that. It is a bit more difficult because the pole that you're holding has to be put away before you get another fish. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a nice loop right around the outsides here. We're going to actually see if we can either get snagged or have a pike cut the line. Pike, like all these grasses and everything else, perch will basically bite all over the lake. So we'll take a chance and see what we can get. It could sometimes be slow, and you do have to watch out for where you're going because you could get caught up like I'm about to be. So I just got caught up. It's okay. The lines of the water, you can actually use the normal movement keys to get free. Get the direction you want to go and hit J again, you can start trolling. It's okay if the lure stays in the water. You cannot tangle your lines in this. So potentially, if you're running around in circles with 2 poles, you're not going to ever tangle your lines. That's one of the nice things about it. Now what you can do is you can get it snagged on reeds, on logs that are in the water, so on and so forth, when you're close to the shore. So just be careful where you're fishing and what you're fishing through. Now it's starting to warm up. Like I said, daytime's much better for trolling, so we should have the potential for getting some fish here, right in this corner. It's probably going to be the most dangerous spot for us. Now, you'll get used to knowing where the different things are on the lake so you can navigate yourself while you're basically turning backwards. Even when you're looking backwards, it's still going to be if you were facing forwards on the boat, which directions you're turning. So, I'm going to swing out a little bit. Come back in, because I want to get kind of a straight line towards the dock. Now, you can also spin fish from the boat. You don't have to troll. So some of the lakes that have some nice deep holes where some of the more prized fish like to hide, you could go ahead and stop the boat, anchor it, and then spin fish off the boat. Just remember, you can only use one pole at a time. In future expansions or future patches, they may introduce some boats that you can set other poles down in. Right now, it's not going to be an option. Alright, so we're going to come really close to the dock. We're going to do a little wraparound right here, and then we're going to head back out and go around. Again, I'm what's known as a beginning fisherman on this account, so I don't have any skills or points in any of my fishing. So I'm potentially not going to have the best luck catching a fish. Now, while we're waiting, let's talk about some of the other features of the game. One of the features of the game that will be available to you is what's known as Premium. Now, it's very tempting to get it early on. I have no objections to it. Some people may say differently. Premium, what it will do is it will give you double experience. That's double experience for not only your player level, it's also going to be double experience for your skills that you're learning. So when we saw float fishing going up, it would double the experience we get for that, help us get more points in it. It also allows you to trade with players. So right now, if I would try to trade with somebody, let's just say, who do I want to trade with? Well, look up a buddy of mine who's also a streamer. At JGreen4. I could say hi to Jay. I'm sure Jay will say hi back. But if I try the trade, it tells me I need a premium membership, asks me if I want to buy. We're not going to do anything with that right now. So you can still send messages to other players, you just can't trade any items. The next thing that you have available is we just leveled up. What that means is we actually have a skill point. So based on what type of fishing we want to do, we can put points into the different types of skills that we have. If we want to help with our float fishing, we can use float. What I want to do is I'm going to use the spinning reel. I'm going to put a point into this. Some of you may be like, well, you've already said you don't like spinning. Why are you putting a point in spinning reel? Spinning reel actually lets you get a point in the other spin fishing and bottom fishing categories automatically. It's the one universal icon that you can go through. Still no fish. Alright, so Jay Green responded to us, so we can go to messages. Hello, Sir Newbie. Thanks, Jay. So we're not having much luck spinning right now. We're going to keep doing it until we catch a fish. Now, some of the other things you can see, we're not just seeing the fish that are being caught. We can see when other players around us level up. Not only that, if you look right here, Chansox, which I'll probably just completely, absolutely butchered that name, caught a weekly record common barbel. What that means is we have records that reset every week. They allow you to try to keep track of the biggest fish caught. Not only that, it could potentially help you when catching fish. So if I hit escape, we have the records down here. If we click on it, we can see all the different regions that everything's going to be considered. We have Mosquito Lake. It's going to tell us the biggest fish that have ever been caught on just Mosquito Lake. If we click on absolute records, that's going to be the biggest fish of that species caught anywhere. It doesn't matter what location. And then if we look at weekly records, it's going to show us the biggest fish that were caught this week. And we can see on here, it's going to give us this, what the picture looks like, the name of the fish, the weight that it was. It's going to give us the lake that it was caught on, the type of lure used, the player name, and the date. Now if I click on it, it's going to show us the top 5, so we can see what's been working best. So I told you right now we have the potential for catching perch. We're going to use Mosquito Lake, and we're going to look at perch. We can see the majority of them are caught on what are known as spoons, which is a type of spin fishing that we have not unlocked yet. So that's going to let you get a good idea of what everything's going to be caught. I'm currently in the other region because I'm playing this. I have not designated which region I'm going to be in on this account. Look at that. Jay was really nice, and he sent us some extra worms. So we now have some additional bait we can use for float fishing. So as a non-premium player, you can still you can still get items from other players. You just can't send any out. So it's kind of bobbing. It looks kind of weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up the pole with the number 3 button. Now, I now got a fish on. So what I can do is I can hit J. It's going to stop the boat. I can start reeling it in. Now this fish is kind of heavy, so what I could do is I could use the scroll wheel and I can turn up the friction brake so that it doesn't take any more line out as I'm reeling it in. Once it gets close to the boat, I can hit the right mouse button. It's going to pick up the fish. We just caught ourselves a 168 perch while we were trolling. Again, keeping all the fish, throw the pole back out, set down the pole. All we got to do is hit J again and we're back trolling. That actually did not do exactly what I wanted it to do. I actually just wanted to pick up the pole. So we can continue running around the lake. Now, once you get into the game and you get some more money to buy some different lures for spin fishing, you're going to learn the different types of colors, the sizes, the types of breeds that you're fishing for. These are all going to be different breeds, species. These are all going to be things that you're going to learn in the game. We're not going to go over those today because that's a very long segment. There are better people to talk to you about lures. But the lures are affected by the weather, the temperature, and the types of fish that you're fishing for. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick up the spin rod. I can pick it up while I'm going. So let's say we have a fish on, and I need to go back over, and it's too big for me. While the motor's running and you're trolling, you can actually still steer the boat while you have the rod picked up. So if it's a big fish, you can turn the boat around and you can go directly for it. Now, maybe there's a time that you pick up the pole and you don't know if you have a fish on. This is a little bit of a kind of fun thing that you can do in the game. I told you earlier, with these spinning reels, you now don't have to determine how quickly you bring in the fish. So if I hit R, I can change my retrieval speed. If I hit R and an orange box comes at the bottom that says I can't adjust my retrieval speed, it does it automatically, that means you have a fish on. Go ahead and bring in the pole, you got yourselves a fish. Now I could potentially just hold on to this pole, I could flip it around and do what I want while I'm fishing. As you can see, I could put it under the boat flip it around. I'm not going to end up getting it tangled. It's perfectly fine. I can pick it up, mess around, do whatever I want. Now, if I'm worried I might catch another big fish because I turned my friction brake up with the scroll wheel, I could turn it down without a fish on it. That's fine. So that way, if we get a big fish on it, it's going to start to take out our line. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break our line on purpose. Show you a couple different ways that that can happen. Maybe potentially even break the reel. First thing we got to do is we got to hook a fish. All right, while we're waiting for a fish, one of the different items that we have on here available for you is what's known as crafting. Now, we ate some bread earlier, but that's not the only thing bread is used for. You can see this first bait that we can craft is called the crumb. We've already been fishing with some crumbs. So if I click on bread, I can see the bread. Even if I have 3 pieces there, it's fine. I go ahead and throw it in there, I hit make. What this is going to do, it's going to make us more bread bait. We lose the bread, but now we just got 2.2 points in our harvesting baits. The more you get harvesting baits up, the different types of baits you can actually make and fish with. You can still buy a lot of baits, but making them is going to be a cheaper and easier way. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the pole. I'm going to see if I can expedite the breakage here. I told you guys you have to be very careful to make sure that you always reel in your line. And make sure that it's locked before you start trolling. If we see right now, I didn't lock it. Down here it tells me how much line I actually have out on the pole. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly lock it just to see if we get a fish. And then we'll unlock it and we're just going to let the line go all the way out. We're going to see what happens. Now Mosquito may actually not be big enough for me to potentially do this. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to see what happens when we run out of line. So as we go, we can see that the line's getting shorter and shorter. Okay, that's actually counterproductive on what I want to do. There we go. So yeah, we'll just keep going along. See if I can actually do this. Or is the game not going to let me break the first pole? We could potentially actually have a fish on it swimming towards us as well. Alright, it's starting to go down a little bit more. We'll keep doing a full circle and see what we get. Now, it's still telling me that I can do the retrieval speed, so we know there's not a fish on. And since I'm not actually spinning with it, I shouldn't have a fish on. Really? It's not going to let me take all my line out? Now, how you can tell how much line you have on is under the reel. It tells you how much line you have on once you put the line on. So it tells me I have 144 meters of line, which is strange because it's only 120 meters. So they fuse together the other line that I have. That's why I have so much. Alright, we can see we're finally getting to the end of the line. So we can see it just turned red, practically at the end. High probability of the fishing line breaking. I can't break it. I can't get out of the boat. See if I can do this. Alright, set it down. Got out of the boat. Really? Let's try this again. What we're going to potentially try to do there we go. Let's see if we can pick up the pole. It's not going to let us. So we got back in the boat. It told us that we have the rental for another 1 day and 14 hours. That is, I want you guys to know that that is how much time is left in-game hours. All right, so we're at red. We're okay. Let's go ahead and reel this in. It just shows you that we have the potential. Now it's orange. Now it's gray. So we're not in jeopardy of losing all of our line right now. So let's go ahead and reel it in. I was really hoping for that break. And we're going to do a long distance spin. See if we can get one more fish before we go back out. Now, as I told you before, we can return items to the shop right after we buy them. Since I've already been using this gear, regardless of if it's been an hour or not, I cannot return this gear back to the shop. So I have no way of getting my money back for this. As of right now, you have no way to sell gear. So any gear that you have on you, you're not going to be able to get rid of. So I can't just sell it somewhere for like half price and then use that to buy something else. I'm stuck with the pole, the reel, the line, and everything else. And this is boring. I really, honestly, to God, hate spin fishing with a passion. So we're just going to power this line in, and then we're going to go back to float fishing, because that's where we can make some money. Spin fishing is very slow at the beginning of the game. I recommend waiting a few levels to where you can afford at least 2 poles for spin fishing, and then trolling just for skill points. Once you get a better pole, then you can start worrying about trying to catch the bigger fish with that one pole. Alright. Thank you, that's finally over. Alright, now I'm going to check the cafe again. And now checking the cafe, I see, wait a minute, some of the cafe orders have changed. Now they have a pike up there at number, well, pike was there at number 1. Now they have a common roach. They got a couple common roach orders on here. If we look around, we can see that the orders do change. These are time limits. After this time limit's up, you can no longer turn in that order. There's going to be a new one. So we're one Chinese sleeper away from filling that order, where we're going to get 5 silver. Just to show you, it's 5.37 silver if we turned it in as a cafe order. Those 2 fish by themselves, if we just select Chinese sleeper, are not even zero point 0.4 silver. So we're getting almost 10 times as much silver turning in that cafe order as we're going to get from selling these individually. That's why you always check the cafe before doing anything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over to our perch spot over here, and we're going to see if we can catch another Chinese sleeper so we can fill up that order. Now we're going to use worms because Chinese sleeper like worms better. You can catch Chinese sleeper on worms just about anywhere. You can catch them in the deeper water. You can catch them in the shallower water. They do prefer the shallower water. It doesn't matter if it's open water around reeds, lily pads, or anything else. We got a good chance of catching them. So we're just going to hang out here a little bit, see what we get. It's about to become nighttime again, so we're going to go down a little bit on how many fish we're going to catch. And we got ourselves a perch. Now, you could potentially, like I could set my poles down, I could run around. I'm not going to be able to see what my poles are doing while I'm gone. So if I get a fish on, it could potentially hurt my line. Let's just see if I can make it over to the feed station, get the food real quick before a new day hits. The nice thing about it is, if I get the food now, when it hits 0000 at the top of the screen, I could potentially eat right again. But you don't need to do that because the field kitchen is really nice out here. This is the only lake that has a field kitchen. So stay here as long as you like. You get free food once a day. Depending on what you're doing, you won't need to use anything else but that station. Alright, if we look, both of our floats are still here, so we didn't lose anything. Now what I actually want to do, I want to break the bamboo rod. We can actually do this. Let me show you a little trick. So I'm going to pull in the first pole, pull in the bamboo rod. Put that away. So let's say I go to the inventory and I hit discard, and I accidentally discarded my bamboo pole. I don't have any of the stuff that goes along it anymore. I don't have the float, I don't have the line, I don't have the hook, I have nothing. What you could do, we can actually head back over the cottage pond. Just like we did before. If you break the bamboo pole, if you break the line on it, if you lose the float, if you lose the hook, you could come back to Cottage Pond every hour in real life and get a brand new setup. Now, it will not give you another pole. If you already have a bamboo pole on you, it's not going to give you another bamboo pole. But since I don't have a bamboo pole on, if I go back over to it and hit Y, it's going to say I got more tackle at the bottom right succeeded, I can go back into my inventory. There's my bamboo rod. I got my fishing line. We're actually going to put the better line on this one. I got my feather float. I got my rusty hook. And I got my worms. Now, we can continue the fish out here. We don't have to be at Mosquito. I reset my poles. I reset the depth. Every time you put a new pole on, you're going to have to reset your depth for float rods. So I'm too close to the water. I back up a little bit. You can set your poles down on the dock. Throw it out. See what else we can get here. Now, the other thing that you happen to see for just a second, if you go over to the house and you hit E, the game actually gives you a free storage. This is your house. You have 1,000 spaces that you can put whatever you want. So if I look at my backpack, I could be like, oh, well, I really don't need this old Soviet fishing line. Instead of discarding it, what I could do, right-click on it, move item to house. Now it's no longer taking up a slot in my inventory. If I hit E, we can see it in my house. Don't hit discard. Go back, I can right-click on it, move item back to backpack, so now I have the line again in my backpack. Let's go take a look at our poles. It's a slow day. Alright, we're going to head back to Mosquito because we want to fill up that Chinese sleeper order. You can only fill cafe orders with fish from that lake. So let's say I get another sleeper like I did during the introduction. I'm not going to be able to turn that in at Mosquito as part of the cafe order. So we're going to go ahead and leave and go back because we just need one. As difficult as that may seem, sleepers can be caught pretty easily. So I'm going to go back out to one of my favorite spots. Once we cast out the float rods, I'm going to tell you guys about some of my favorite spots on Mosquito Lake and what you could potentially catch there. Little fun fact, this little ravine that has the bridge and the Old Man Joe or whatever you want to call him underneath there, you can't walk across there anywhere but on the bridge. Also a fun fact, unless you find something I have not, you cannot fall into the water on the Mosquito Lake. Some of the other lakes you can, so be careful. But on Mosquito, you can run as far as you can into the water and you'll be safe. So we're going to keep the worms on. We're going to go ahead and cast around here. I want it right in there so I can see it a little better. Now, one other thing that happens, if you switch lakes, you're not going to be able, or your flashlight automatically turns off. So all you got to do is hit F again. It's going to turn on our flashlight. Now it's going to be a little difficult to see when it gets darker, but we're still going to try it. So this area right here is where I'm standing. This is one of my favorite spots. This is great for both types of carp, gibel and crucian, as well as these outside areas are good for perch, and it's good for Chinese sleepers. So if you have a competition with those fish, these are a good area. Where we were fishing before was right here. This is my favorite spot for perch. 50 centimeters down, just a couple meters off the shore, they do tend to bite quite a bit. If you're specifically targeting tench or gibble carp, right down here is my favorite spot. We were fishing off of here yesterday. We were getting some roaches, we were getting some bleaks, and we actually were getting some chubs. The deep holes, you're going to find your eyed and your breams in the deep holes. You can also catch perch in there, but we're not going to be able to reach those with the type of poles we're using right now. See if we got anything on this one. Nope. We'll get back to the map here in a second. Both lures are gone. Here we go. Come on, sleeper. I think that one's too small. Alright, so it's getting kind of windy. 5.2 meters per second. Kind of bad. It's going to be blowing our hooks all around. There we go. I think it's the even higher than that. To answer a question in my chat, to find the first rod that I have, what you want to do is you want to go to the cottage pond and you actually want to click Y on the cottage and it's going to give you a free setup. So you have 2 poles to start off with. So you can see, even though there's not any current in this lake, the wind is blowing so hard it's actually pushing my floats around. So you got to kind of be careful. Alright, I can see the first one going. We picked it up and it didn't affect the bites. The fish is still biting on it, so that's good. It's not always the best, but it sometimes works. Now, there's a few different things that can happen. One, you could pull too early, too late. At that case, it's not going to say anything. You do get to keep your bait if you miss the fish. Every now and then, you're going to get a fish jumps off. Starting off, your hooks, they're okay hooks. And you're a novice fisherman, so you don't know what you're doing. You could potentially lose a lot of fish. I said earlier, it gets very frustrating at times. I can tell you this game is a lot of fun. Take your time with it. It's going to have its frustrations, but in the end, you're going to be able to get better gear, you're going to be able to get better fish, and it's going to be more worth it in the end. So just be patient with the game, and you'll have plenty of time to have fun and get what you need. Okay, that's a good example. It was just telling me I was touching bottom, so I didn't cast far enough out that the bait was touching the bottom. See if I can get it again. It's not going to tell me this time. The wind's dying down a little bit, so we can go back over here where it's a little more open. Floats aren't going to move that much, and we got a better chance of a sleeper. There's one of the messages, fish got away. So we know that that player lost a fish. Either that they were doing something wrong, they forgot about their pole was in the water, or it just jumped the hook. It does happen in real life, so they do have it in game. There's a nice gibble carp, 869. That's our biggest fish so far. And we're getting closer to level 3, guys. Level 3 hype. So now, let's say that I didn't actually want to be in chat with any of these guys because they're talking about all sorts of stuff. I'm like, you know what? I want to do my own thing. So I want to create a channel. I can make it private and put a password on it, or I can keep it public. I'm going to keep it public. I'm just going to put it as watch you tutorial chat. We're going to make it global so anyone can join it that wants to. And I can't do it because I'm not a premium member. That's a shame. But if I look at the current chats that are already out there, let's see if I could find a friend of mine. Oh, let's go ahead and look and see what's going on with our polls. Missed that one. I think there's a sleeper on the first poll. Let's see if we get lucky. That's going to work for me. Alright, let's go take a look real quick. See if we can turn in that cafe order now. I will go ahead and show you guys the full price of the fish before we turn in the cafe order. That way you can see how much of a difference it truly is between turning in cafe orders and just selling the fish outright. One of the biggest complaints starting off is I don't have enough silver. It does take time. You got to take the time fishing. Just think of yourself if you've never fished a day in your life and somebody just hands you a pole and says, okay, go fish. You may not know exactly what you're doing. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video today. It was too big. The Chinese sleeper was too big. So let's go back to trying to catch another Chinese sleeper. We'll stay over here by these boats and see if we can get one. That is one of the things that could also be frustrating to you, that you're one fish short from a cafe order. You can hold on to your fish for a while. What I would recommend is if you don't get your cafe order for your smaller fish within 2 hours of catching the last fish, I would potentially look at trying to sell those. Because after 2 hours, the fish starts to degrade. Now, if you get what's known as a trophy fish, which we talked about earlier, you can hold on to those a little longer because the trophy orders are for a lot more money. So if you get lucky enough to get a trophy order in there, it's worth that risk at having that fish in your inventory longer than 2 hours. All right, so while we're waiting again, let's talk about some other things that are fun on the map that you can fish at. So anytime you're fishing for perch, in these medium areas, they're going to be good places for perch. The shallow areas are as well. Down here is actually known as perch corner kind of thing. You're pretty good here. You got the potential for a lot of things right here. If you're spin fishing, you got the potential for pike. You got the potential for perch. If you're bottom fishing, you have the potential for tench and the different types of carps. If it falls into the hole, that's when you're going to be looking at trying to get your breams and your ides. This whole area over here, this is good for frogs if you have the equipment. At the beginning, you're not going to have the equipment for frogs. You need tiny hooks, and there's no reason for you to spend money on tiny hooks at low levels. What you can also catch are common carp. Just to show you, if we look at the records for the common carp on Mosquito Lake, we're going to choose the U.S. region. That's where a lot of the new players are at. If we just look at the Mosquito Lake records, they get up to 11 kilos. You don't have anything that can bring in an 11 kilo fish right now. So you want to try to stay away from this general area right here. It has a whole bunch of reeds, a whole bunch of lily pads. I told you those are good for gibble carps and crucian carps. They're also good for common carp. Be careful. All right, we're not getting any bites. Let's bring these back up. And for those in my chat, yes, I am fishing for a sleeper on purpose. And I will be switching over to my main account here in a little bit. We're just about finished with the tutorial. So we had a lot of luck with sleepers down here. Just like I said, this is one of my favorite spots to fish in. So we could also potentially stand off of this little broken dock here, cast a little deeper. Hopefully we still get sleepers, but we could also get a perch. So we're still going for that one last sleeper that we need to fill that cafe order. Now, some of the other things that you could do while we're waiting here is you could also change a few things in your settings. If you don't like English or you don't know English, one thing, why are you still listening to my stream right now? Two, you can go ahead and change your languages. Past the tutorial, if you don't want to do that tutorial I did earlier, you can go ahead and turn that off. You can show the time, the weather, the indicators. You can remove some of that stuff if you rather have more of an open screen. Your different chats, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. I personally, what I normally turn off is food. I don't care if I see them eating or drinking. It really doesn't bother me. Audio, change your audio levels back and forth. So it's whichever you want. How you want your setup, this is currently mine. Graphics wise, I keep it on good. I can go to the highest level. There's no reason to. I don't see much of a difference. The only one that some people like is if you turn on fog. This is what fog looks like. But fog makes it very difficult to see your floats. Yeah, I can't even tell if they're getting hit or not. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my fog. And you'll see the fog magically rolls away. That's one thing I do like about changing those settings. It's not it automatically happens real quick. There's a nice perch. So we got a good perch. That's going to give us some nice money. Our float fishing's now up to 3%. Let's keep going, shall we? What level is that dude? Alright, so we may have to move back over a little bit. The Chinese sleepers are being a little bit of jerks right now. Giving us too big a fish, giving us too little a fish, but it's okay. And look, we happen to catch a random fish while we're pulling it up. Now, when you start off, you can see that my float fishing is going up pretty quickly. That's not always going to be the case. As you fish more with the same type of rod, reel, and the same type of fish, you're not going to get as many points. Plus, as you get higher up in the different skills, it's going to take longer to get to the points you want. If we look at float fishing, I could recommend that you get up to using a leader. Using a leader is a great thing to have. We talked about leaders when it comes to spin fishing. You could also use leaders with both float fishing and with bottom fishing. You have to get up to a 45 skill in order to use them. Another one that's good to use is the hair rig. This lets you use what are known as boilies. These are specified baits that are created by big companies that you put them in little balls and little nets on the end of your hook. You're not going to be able to do that unless you get your float fishing up high enough. Let's see where this one went. Okay, it was just hiding behind that other one. So I know it seems like it could take forever potentially to get up to 45 skill in float, especially if you don't like float. There are some other things that help you along the way. Bolognese rod is going to let you actually cast out a little bit, so you will actually have a spinning reel that you're going to use on that. So as you get higher up there, Bolognese rig is where you can actually set it up. It's going to help you out a little bit, give you a little more fun when it comes to float fishing. $603 Crucian. We're getting some nice experience right now. One of the things we have not talked about yet are competitions. Competitions are hosted by anybody. Anybody can set up a competition. All you got to do is go to the competition and click on this plus sign. You're going to be able to choose what type of competition you want. So you can pick the different categories are going to be the total weight, which is going to be all the weight that you could possibly bring in. You can specify it on there. The maximum weight, so it's just the biggest that you can get. Maximum weight of 3 species. You choose 3 species, and you get to get the maximum weight from each species to add up to see how high you can get on the rankings. Maximum number of fish, self-explanatory. Who brings in the most fish? Maximum number of species. Those are the different types of fish that you catch. If you set it for global, anybody in the game, regardless of where they're from, can play. If you set it on regional, it's only going to be the region that you're currently in. Right now, the only available format is all against all. And later, they're going to do teams and they're going to be duels, but right now, all versus all. Duration. These are in-game hours. So 12 hours is a half hour in real life, 24 hours is an hour, 48 hours, 2 hours. Let's just say we're doing total weight. You can also choose a single species, so it's not just all the fish you catch. Maybe I want to do Chinese sleeper because I'm fishing for that right now. You can change the players. Starting on an account, you can't make a ridiculous number. You can only make 50. You can also limit the levels, so I don't want any high levels getting in here. Maybe I put it down to 12. By the way, 1 through 12 is the sponsored streamers' low-level comps. What I mean by sponsored streamers, if you see a stream that says gear/premium or gold/premium with RF4 in front of it, this is a sponsored competition from one of the sponsored streamers like myself, that you're going to be able to win gear or gold from RF4 and premium if you get in the top 3. If you don't get in the top 3, that's okay. Top 5 in the smallest of our tournaments still get 7 days of premium. So if you're 4 or 5, you may not get gear or gold, but you can still get free premium. If there's more players in there, there's actually going to be more of a breakdown. If you're on my Twitch channel, underneath my page, you can see a link that's going to be able to take you to the competition page to see what competitions are held. We currently have 3 different types of competitions. We have high-level competitions, which are normally going to be 20 plus. We have, 22 plus. We have medium-level competitions, which are 13 through 22, and then we have low levels that are 1 through 12. The low levels and the medium levels will always be for gear and premium. So you got a chance of being able to get an entire set of gear based on your level for just winning a competition. Now, if I didn't want to make a competition, if there are any available, I could join on the competition by clicking. In this case, I would have to put in a password in order to get into this one because it's private. Because he is just basically selling out his Twitch channel. There, that is a good Chinese sleeper. I know that one's in the levels. So let's bring in this fish real quick. Ooh, this is going to be a nice fish too. Another 689 gibble. All right, let's hurry back because we don't want to miss that cafe order. Like I said, the cafe orders do run out of time. I believe we had a couple days to get this one in, though. Days as in-game days. The timers that are in the cafe, they are based on days and, hours and minutes of in-game time. That's the same with the repair shop. Some people, when they go to repair something, they see it's going to take 18 hours. That's not 18 hours in real life, that's 18 hours in game. All right, let's make sure it's still here. We still got 90 minutes to turn this one in. So let's go ahead and see how much those fish were going to cost if we were just going to sell them straight up. So it's only going to be these three fish right here are all that we could, or sorry, these three fish. So we can see on there that's going to be 42.42 silver. If I go over to the cafe, I select all three, we're going to get 5.37 for 3 tiny fish. I turn that in. You're going to then see the orders grayed out. I can't fill that order again, so I'm going to have to fish for something else. Now we have nothing else that we're going to be able to turn in, so we can go ahead and sell our fish. Fish does decay while it's in your keep net while you're offline, so you do want to make sure that you sell your fish in a timely manner. This case, I'm going to go ahead and sell. I hit the button. It tells me that I'm going to get 10.39 silver for all those fish that are in my keep net. I go ahead and sell. I'm now up to 20.97, so now we're making some money between the cafe order and the fish that were in the net. You can see here my fish net goes back to 0. You can hold up to 100 fish at a time. So if you're catching a lot, you can go ahead and get those 100 fish in. Turn them in. You can sell partial fish. You know, if you want to sit there and you have 100 fish, but there's 20 of them that are kind of getting to that point they might rot, you can sell those 20 fish, and then you have 20 more spots available. You don't have to sell them all before you go back. I would always recommend that if you don't have cafe orders, and the cafe orders have already been, like, oh, you've already filled them all up, go ahead and sell your fish. It's going to be at least an hour before you're going to be able to get a new cafe order. So go ahead and sell them, because most likely you're going to be able to get them again. Cafe orders last for at least 3 hours. So if you get one, oh, a cafe order just came up, I just sold my fish, you probably have about 3 hours to catch those same fish. Take your time with it, fill those cafe orders, sell your fish, get your silver, you're going to be able to get up there. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. We're going to pick it up later. We're going to actually join a competition in my next stream, and we're going to go ahead and or my next video, and we're going to show you how competitions work while you're in them. Once again, my name is Watchurstep. I am a sponsored streamer for RF4. I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I will see you later. And Constantine just comes in at the very end. What you doing, man? Let me go ahead and shut this off real quick. Guys, I'll be right back.